And so I think we could overcome that personally, but anyway, that's like my own struggle. So here we're going with a welded material. So the strap now becomes solid aluminum. And what is this a section of? What do you guys see there? Do you have this screen on your screens? Or are you just all distracted? You're like, you're emailing right now? Sorry, you're on WhatsApp. We need a mirror in the back of this room so you can see that.
We're not supposed to ask those kind of questions.
Sorry. Is that politically incorrect? So those of you that are with me, what do you see here in section? What is that a section of?
Is it a chair?
Yeah, that's the, right. So that's the seat, that's the back, that's the opening. I forgot to bring an image of the chair, but whatever, sorry. You guys can kind of imagine it. You saw that drawing there in the middle. These are those straps going around, right? And this is a close-up. Where the weld goes, very important. How the section could vary, right? A or B. Could be this kind of corrugated zigzaggy thing, or it could be smooth. The dimension of that, exactly what it is, the size of the tubing. So, and this is very, very simple. This is something that I do to communicate with my team. Okay. And then, what else can I share with you guys before we get into? Let's go back to our workshop-y assignment. This is kind of an interesting project where we try to once again innovate in terms of weaving. So this is what do you think this flat ring represents? This project's called the irregular chair. The irregular chair. What does that flat ring represent?
Does the frame of the seat?
Mm-hmm. That's right. So this is kind of creative because obviously it's not flat, right? But if we were to cut through it, and if that were solid material, then this would become the ring. What do you think is happening here with the irregular chair? Should I show you the irregular chair? You guys want to see the irregular chair? Let's go here. So that's the irregular chair. So what you saw before was a study model that allowed us to get to here, where we were exploring all of the different ways that, and this is something we consciously think about, we can engage the artisan in the art, in the actual creative aspect of the making, right? So that rather than weaving a consistent pattern over and over and over again, they could actually collaborate creatively and weave any pattern, right? That's what makes it irregular, right? There's, I think, two different colors of fiber, and then there's this. What is that guy?
So like tie those multiple bands together?
Okay, between the teacher and the TA, I'm never gonna hear from these guys. Some of them have barely said a word. Yeah, so that's like a little industrial mechanical fastener, and that, yeah.
I just have a question. How did you figure out how the weight would be distributed in that? Was it just trial and error, or?
So the weight of the body?
Yeah.
Well, so along the perimeter, all of these guys, for the most part, are equidistant, right?
Okay.
And so, regardless, once it's like making an irregular truss, right, or a spider web. As long as we're pulling on the frame equally, it doesn't really matter what happens in the air.
Really?
I mean,
Interesting.
to a certain extent, right? It's not like, yeah.
So do you set like specific guidelines or rules as far as like distribution of color, or other than the equal, I guess, distribution of the fibers for the artists?
No, no. Actually, this is a case where we're proposing that there's only a certain number of fibers they can use, and there's a certain minimum spacing, right? But the rest of that, they get to play, and that's the idea. I'll show you. Wow, you guys are getting interested. I love it. If it's here, oh man, we might have to go back to. I'm looking. So hard to find anything on this website. There is okay. Shoot. There's one of my best-selling collections is called Dala. Oh, look, we have the internet. Oh, it must be here. Let's see. Dala. So Dala means to take, or to. It can almost mean to make in Tagalog, the language of the Philippines. And so what we did there, besides having a patent for weaving through an expanded aluminum frame, we actually have an irregular pattern that the artisans weave through. So there. So this is Dala. So there's an expanded aluminum structure in white, right?
Oh.
You can kind of see that white grid. It's like a fence.
Oh, I see.
So that's hammered by hand. That's actually formed by hand. You can see another basket in the background. And then these fibers, double stripe, triple stripe, single stripe, double stripe. There's no pattern there. As long as they alternate color and they can choose single stripe or double stripe. And they change it. They can weave what they want.
So the frame is provided by you to the people?
No, the frame is also made in the factory.
Oh, in that factory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's kind of guideline for them to read.
No.
Kinda.
I mean, this is, this kind of a concept sketch there. So these are the expanded aluminum frames of this. Show and tell time. All right. I didn't think the time would go by so quickly, but of course it does. Wait a second. Maybe I gave you guys too much philosophy in the beginning. Let's put this back. And we just have to rip it open.
You have to put it back.
Okay. I know. Okay. So this is one of my most recent collections. It's a solar-powered outdoor lantern, and this is the structure for it, right? So that's the raw aluminum. This is how the thing starts its life before it's powder coated, and you can see how perfect all of that structure is. And this starts as a flat sheet of material, which is hammered over a wooden jig with a rubber mallet, and then welded into shape. You guys can, this is fairly light. This is the LED module, right? This is the solar powered lamp. This whole assembly is designed and engineered and produced by a secondary company. You can see the solar cell. This is a polycarbonate shell on the outside. And then we can pass this around.
Yeah, sure.
And I want you guys to take a good look at it because you're going to draw this section of this. That's kind of how we're going to start.
How much is it?
That size. So the others, maybe you saw the collection in here. It's called the others because I was interested in how we might have a companion in the garden and how we might think about, this is how it's woven, that exact lamp. You can see.
It's also hand woven, right?
Yeah, it's hand
How
woven.
long does it take to finish by one person? I mean,
How long?
Yeah, how long?
This is in the prototyping stage, so he was still learning. We were still exploring how we would weave it.
Yeah.
There's 4 different colors of fiber. You can see all coming together. So the intelligence behind that had to be designed. I wanted, because it's a story of a family of products, I wanted the fiber to read like clothing, So this guy, is wearing red clothes. But typically, I would say this is a case where the product is woven by one artisan, and they could weave probably, my guess is 3 or 4 of these a day. But here it is illuminated.
Wow.
There's a table, this is small, this is medium, this is large. And then there are these totem assemblies. This is actually a teak spacer that's made in a secondary factory owned by the same group in Surabaya, Indonesia. And then each one of these guys, there's a single solar cell at the top, and there's a cord, you can't see it, but it chains these guys together. And then you get a clicker, you get a little remote control that can control more than one at a time.
I don't expect them to be cheap.
There's a marble base.
I mean,
How much? Okay, this guy is probably 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah, this is maybe 1,800. This is probably closer to 2,800 or something.
But it's solar powered, right?
Yeah.
No electricity needed, and then
You can also plug it in and use it indoors. I brought that from my bedroom. I use it as my night light.
Great.
Let me see. Yeah, here it is again. So you can see we were playing around with another colorway, weaving through. I want to show you. I think I have an image of way at the top. Please, my lovely assistant. Keep going until we see one of those made all the way at the top. There's one. Yep. I saw it. With the eyes. No, keep going. So yeah. So there it is. So this is the product. This is, you can see there's a lot more to the product than what's there. So let's go all the way to the top. Yeah. So here's the solar panel. This is a separate assembly in aluminum that has the handle attached, and that slips over, and then it's locked down with the solar cell, and it holds these eyes, which are they? I think they're water jet cut, acrylic, but they're assembled by hand in Germany. So these guys are very expensive.
Oh, okay.
But they're like 3-4 millimeter. No, they're closer to 4 or 5 millimeter thick acrylic. And the eyes, right, based on the concept of the other. What do we mean when we say the other, and how does Europe? This is my political response to the refugee crisis, right? How do we welcome new people into our community or into our garden? So.
So do they have function or?
Yeah. This is a lantern as well. Oh, the eyes. No, the eyes have no function.
Okay.
They're just personality,
I see.
and they're an accessory, right? They're intended to remind you that this could be your companion in the garden, right?
Okay.
This
So
could be your neighbor.
It's supposed so the lantern is supposed to be kind of moved around in the garden with the
It is portable.
Okay.
Yeah, it is portable. It has a marble base, which is kind of heavy, but you can still carry it. The base either comes in marble or cast concrete, and the base has the electrical rechargeable component inside.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's draw it. Here's the thing. There's the prototype. Where's my bag? I have paper, and I have pens. Here's the paper. You guys have to get up off here.
One sheet per person or?
You guys take several sheets. And I'm just gonna let you share. These are my own personal. These pens have made many a drawing for me, so respect the markers. My favorite are Muji and Stettler, and yeah, it's cool. Oh, there's some random stuff in there. But yeah, there's markers in this bag. And so I'd like a section through that whole thing.
Oh, okay.
And
I love this.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I really want
I'll
to
get
buy
you a
one.
deal. I'm talking to the teacher only, okay?
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get you a deal.
That's great.
Where is... I want you to see a whole image of it so that you can. Here's another one with different eyes, different colorway.
Okay.
And I thought, well, anyway, you can figure it out.
Right.
So, first of all, how do we begin a section, right? You have to ask yourself where you're going to cut the product.
This is all part of your grade.
And when we think about cutting the product, right, we need to understand the product and plan, right? Or what designers would call top view. Isn't that lame, top view?
Yeah.
If you studied architecture and you tell someone draw something in plan, they don't understand you. So you have to tell them top view. So you have to understand the thing in top view. And then you have to decide where your cut is going to be. Okay? So first let's draw a plan of it. And this is a single drawing or a single page. You'll have your plan and you'll have your section below it, right? Aligned at the same proportions. Relative dimensions.
So is it up to them where to cut the section also?
Yeah, it's up to you where to cut the section, but you're going to draw it in plan first, and then you're going to have your section below it. And all drawings are vertical, sorry. And at the top of your page, you'll have, like we do, you'll have the client name, you'll have the concept name, and then you'll have the date.
Like your concept sheets.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. This is a creative section. Right? Creative section. Also, I guess analytical because you're trying to understand what's inside of here, right? How much time have we got?
Well, 20 more minutes.
Okay, so we're gonna do like 5 of these. Just kidding. Maybe one more, and I'll let you guys pick the next one.
So do you sometimes need to cooperate with the engineers or like lighting engineers, lighting specialists?
Yeah, we're launching. Yeah, I'm going to Milan on Friday, you guys, for the Milan Furniture Fair. We're launching 3 new products this year. A dining chair version of the Grasso lounge chair, which is one of our more recent products. And we're doing a cabinet collection with a company called Living Divani, and then we're launching a new acoustic lighting collection for an Italian brand called Luce Plan. And yeah, we were just in Austria. 10 days ago I was in Austria looking at the textiles for that lighting collection that we've also designed. So we worked with a CNC 3D knitting textile company in Austria, and we developed the pattern language, etc. and the form of this thing. These kind of, I'll show you an image of the lamp. Oh, anyway.
While they are working on, I have some couple of questions.
Yep.
So
You can take it if you want.
you showed a lot of interesting sections of human body or cars and all other not really industrial design products.
Mm-hmm.
But how do they inspire you for your efforts of bringing the hand back to the industry in terms of the sectional thinking and design process? How do they inspire you?
Well, I mean, it depends on the techniques that we're working with. It depends on where we are, and how we're thinking about things. We did a ceramics, a porcelain collection recently, and yeah, I was very much thinking about how to describe the thickness of the material.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's a slip casting technique, and the thickness of the material changes. Or actually, yeah, thickness of the material changes depending on where the porcelain sort of settles, right?
So the change of the thickness of the material, that's something that you can only show through the section.
Yeah, you wouldn't see that, and you wouldn't know that. But in terms of the form of the thing, we have these rings that step down. And sometimes you see the whole bump, and sometimes you only see a part of the bump.
Right, from
you know?
outside.
Yeah, and it's almost like the form is more collapsed at the top and the bottom, and more expressed on the sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. I may be doing a residency at Thread, which is the Joseph and Annie Albers Foundation in Senegal, and they invite different artists to come and work in fiber-based
Wow.
products. And I was just we were talking on the way over about a place called Berea College. You guys, have you heard of Berea College?
How do you spell the name?
Berea.
Berea.
Yeah, so Berea College is in Berea, Kentucky, and it's the first integrated college in the South, founded in 1855, and they have a student-run craft program, and they have a product collection that I'm going to be helping them with starting in the fall, with a number of workshops over the next year to collaborate with the students to develop a student design collection as well. So it's pretty cool. So we're going to work in totally new materials. Like I've never designed a broom before. And we're going to work in broom craft in Berea, Kentucky. And they have broom craft, they have woodworking, they have ceramics, and then they have woven fibers, and yeah, 4.
Nice.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
So you're gonna be there for a semester?
I'll go for like a week at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually don't like to teach. I don't really have time to teach. So workshops are much more doable. You know, like pop in and out. Oh yeah, she's jamming. Look at you. Yeah. I'm looking at your drawing.
Ah, it's Java?
Yeah, it's good. It's looking good.
Oh. Mm.
Sugoi.
Japanese! What?
How you doing? Good to see you. I just nice. Getting there. Wow.
Really interesting how different their sections are.
Yeah, it is. It
Looking
is.
at the
We
same-
should pin them up afterwards.
Yeah, but if you draw the sections in AutoCAD, I'm sure they'll all look alike.
Yeah. Yeah, so how many of you actually learned how to draw a section?
All of them
I mean, we
in
just
the
go for
core
it.
studio.
In Core Studio.
Yeah, all of them. They're supposed to learn.
You have to. Oh, I forgot. There's a whole section of. Well, maybe I'll conclude with that.
Yeah, sure.
There's-
And I have one more question.
Yeah.
So, the section as a communicative tool. I mean, you told us that when you kind of guide the local people to weave something,
Mm-hmm.
you show them, you explain your concept with a plan, the 2-dimensional plan.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about using section or 3-dimensional mean to communicate with them, or what could be the pitfall for them?
Yeah, we have, and actually one approach is to think about how we determine, because it's a circular object, right? How we determine the diameter.
Right.
And so, to develop more complex forms accurately, one approach we had was to actually bring in another material that gets woven into the product and in one way sets the diameter. So we made these crazy prototype baskets that were like,
Yeah,
I don't know, changing.
Quite hard to communicate with
Exactly.
them. We only plan.
Exactly. Or an elevation even, right?
Right.
You know, it's even hard to communicate. So we thought of a physical means of defining the diameter at particular moments in the product.
I see.
And so if, for example, they were weaving an object of this height and that diameter, and we brought them a ring that's the size of the top ring, another ring that is the size of the outer ring,
To
right?
show the dimension.
Right.
Of the,
And then we just said, hey, weave these into the object. They then could control the space in between,
okay.
and then we'd come up with really like totally unique things.
It's almost like extruding this one plan for the elevation, so
Right.
that it has all the sections.
But it's going to change because of the rings that
Yeah.
we included. So, tools of discovery,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
How do we show these? Can we like pin up or something? How are you guys doing over there? And I want some notes. We need some notation. So we know what we're looking at, right?
That's true.
I'm gonna put up my section here so you can see. So put some notes on there. Put some dimensions on there if you want to.
Is that the name of the chair? The ray?
Oh, maybe.
Such an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. Naming is a whole other project. It's so ridiculous.
But it's,
Naming. But it's
even-
fun.
Yeah, I mean, even though it's not gonna be produced like this, but I'm sure it'll be your design language sometimes to be used.
Yeah. No, this is evolving, but it's evolving into a different
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And we use the name, the concept name, to communicate the intent, almost like a thesis,
Okay.
right? That's
So what
the
does
idea.
that mean? The ray?
Ray, a drop of golden sun.
Okay.
Me, a name. Come on, everybody, sing along. So while you guys do that, maybe I'll just skip ahead to the interior. And I wanted to, this is one exhibition that we designed where we used 13 kilometers of colored rope in a 2,500 square foot space to talk about the weaving culture of this company, who actually developed the first Italian mass-produced chair in the 30s. And then they put all the weavers out of business with the automated weaving machine. So for their 90th anniversary, we put this project together called Variations to return them to weaving culture. And here's another image of it. And here's another image of it. And remember I was telling you about those Missoni vases? So here are
Yeah.
those vases.
Wow.
So this is like my first handmade object, these guys. And we made all of those one at a time in 3 months
So
in the studio.
So do they have also the inner metal frame or something inside?
Some of them are glass,
Ah, I see.
some of them are ceramic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most of them are glass.
Oh, I see.
This big one is glass, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is the Missoni's personal collection of 60 vases that we did.
They look Missoni.
Yeah, that's their fabric. And here's the exhibition that we designed for that work to display those vases. So I wanted to show you, I mean, I know you guys all know Diller and Scofidio. I'm going to show you their work as an example of a practice, an architectural practice that is really based on the section. I would argue that these guys are, and this is their first published project, The Slow House from 1989. I would argue that these guys really built a whole career on rethinking and thinking about section and these very traditional methods of drawing. So this is the plan of the house, arcing here, and the curve is based on the road where the car drives up and the view. So the view is controlled and connected back to the car, a single point of entry, and then the house is developed from there. All of these lines are section lines through the house. And then these are the respective sections that demonstrate how the building envelope changes over that distance.
I see.
They actually built a really beautiful model, which I'll show you now. to illustrate that. Look at this. So this is a solid wood model where the section is drawn on glass. And the glass slides out on these tracks, and each one of these represents an angle, 10 degrees, sliced through the house. And then here you see, if you look very closely, 3 people at the dining table upstairs, and down below in the bedroom, something mysterious is happening. But I think as a practice, they've put a lot into section. This is one of their earlier projects, the Cap Street project it's called, which is more like an installation that they developed in a gallery in San Francisco, where the room, the architecture itself, the walls of the building operate to cut sections through products. Through the bed in this case, the bed actually rotates from a single pivot point or fulcrum, which is the center of the space, out and around through the wall all the way around to the other side. So the bed is cut here in section by the wall. Another view of the Cap Street project. Oh man, I thought I had, but I don't. Here's another project from an installation they did at the MoMA called Parasite, where they looked at the escalators of the MoMA as part of the drawing and the analysis of the people on the escalator. So here you see the escalator of the MoMA. You see the plan view of the escalator and how those relate, right, in their drawing. So for years, in many of their projects, the section is a very powerful tool for expressing their identity, even when you look at more recent things like the High Line. So the decision to stop the High Line, or start the High Line, or, right, with this very clean cut, which is a section through the pre-existing structure, and the way that that's isolated and displayed, right, with the glass. And then even their most recent building, 2017's medical center at Columbia University, right? Each floor is exhibited as having, right, a different section. And of course, you're familiar with the Lincoln Center project. And so I thought this was a pretty interesting way to kind of tie it back to architecture for you guys through one particular practice that we're all familiar with that does a really great job of using the section as an expression of their work. So all of these drawings will be graded. Let me just
You can grade.
go around and see what's happening. Okay, you guys wanna talk about this at all?
Why not? Why not?
Okay, just
Nice.
Drawing speaks for itself.
the drawing speaks for itself. You guys agree with that? Let's see what she write here. Inner shell, metal frame. Inner shell. Inner shell, metal frame. Where's it? You mean this?
Yeah.
Inner shell, metal frame. Does that look like metal frame to you guys? What does that look like? The letter word begins with M. Mesh. 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 The light. She's got the light in there, and then she's got outer shell. Inner shell and outer shell. Okay. What do you got? You got really creative with the title, as you can see.
What did you say?
Nope, this is untitled.
Oh, okay.
Untitled. And there's a little bit of a spiral weaving thing happening here. Look, these things became circular. That's interesting. I haven't actually tried that before. We're now experimenting with narrative weaving. Trying to kind of tell stories through what's on the surface. I was going to save it for last, but since you're here. Pretty good. Not bad. I like the cut through the fiber.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty indicative of tendencies. Try to cut through the fibers.
Yeah, what do we notice here? Use of color. Two colors to show the section. All right. Yeah. What's most interesting here is the backside. Sometimes you just gotta flip the paper over and start over, right? I like that. That's great. That's great. And this is almost merging, right? The plan and the elevation, right? These lines here. Here. Okay, I'm passing up some people. Somebody went horizontal. There's always one. It's like, what do you do with this? That whole vertical rule is because the binder, you know, you put it in the binder. It's like you turn the page all of a sudden, you get this one in the wrong direction. Yeah, imagine there's a binder somewhere. You're gonna keep all of these. Should we collect these? Should I be collecting right now? Wow. I love the texture. Okay. So she represented the woven fiber with a dotted line, right? Because that's in the background. No? Maybe? Yeah? That's cool. Why is it off-center? Are we going to do some more perspective, maybe? You can if you want. Start in the corner, just in case you need more space. All right, this is cool. Whoa. Hey, little detail moments happening here. Look at that. That's interesting. Right. Nice. And she got the tubing in there. You understood that there's a tube in there. Did everybody understand there's a tube in there? You saw it. Somebody saw it somewhere. Right. There's a tube in there. That's great. And the witness line, the cut-through line. A lot of you are missing your cut-through line. I don't see a cut-through line. I knew it was this section. Yes, we did. That's awesome. Did you study design?
I got it next
This place? It's called the design school. This is not design. I think it should be called GSA.
What is the GSA?
Yeah, why? Design. I'm kidding. It's very conservative. I should have went design. All right. We have a little over and under action here, right? Over and under the. That's cool. And the backside, which is like, is that just leaking through? I love it. Which is more interesting, right? You know, that's great. How do you do? This is sort of working through something, right? We have this horizontal section cut. We don't know where your cut line is, but there's this third drawing in the middle where you're curious about something, right? Trying to understand what's going on there. And then you gave up. You started to wonder. Oh yeah. All right. You included the base.
I didn't know if it was solid or.
That's a good question. Yeah, there's two kinds of bases. You're right. You noticed that too. So yours is like a hybrid between both bases. Your base doesn't exist, but it could. No, it totally could. Because if you have the plate, you don't need the marble. But this is quite nice. All right. You moved on. You're writing an essay now about all of this. I understand. Yeah. She's going deeper. The book will be published soon. You want to talk about this at all?
Just the plan and section.
All right. I won't go. Let's see. Who do we miss? You guys. something about the weaving, right, happening. See that little zigzag? The two colors? It's kind of nice. Oh, wow. Okay. There's an architect in over here. Look at that. Very clear, isn't it? There's almost too much information. Well, that's great. That's great. You could have benefited from two different colors, I think, right? It's hard to see what is the section and what is the elevation. Is that your own pen? Is that one my pen? Okay. And start with you. All right, cool. Did you guys enjoy that? Was that an interesting process?
Great. Yeah.
All right. Well, pass the pens forward and your drawings. Make sure your name's on it.
Okay, that's great. I mean, would you like to say something to conclude your talk, or?
Well, I mean, I'm around. You know, I have to admit, I happen to be the first industrial designer to get the Loeb Fellowship, so this definition of the built environment is expanding, and I think that that's really interesting. I enjoy the overlap between architecture and design, and the reason I'm not practicing architecture is because I've always been more interested in the scale of the interior, the hand, and the body, right? So if I could leave you with one thought as you're going out into practice, don't forget about people and what that interior experience is like, right? And I think there's still room in the profession to be obsessive and try to be involved in all levels of design. This idea of the door handle to the whole building is kind of interesting to me. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
In the top and the bottom of the lamp, how is the braided, like, is it braided into the loop? Like this sort of these rings, the ropes on the top and the bottom?
Yeah. It's they have to start and end somehow, and they try and do that as elegantly as possible. So that's the ring at the bottom. And you can kind of see it here. It was something that we wanted to expose as a detail. And if you look at some of my other projects, I'll just show you, maybe you can see it in one of these guys. Let's see. There's this idea of the herringbone weave.
Where's the top part of the?
That's important.
Thank you.
So notice how the tubing, right? When we talk about, you can see the structural frame. But that all has to get covered as we start weaving it, right? So what I developed for all of my work with Daedon is this use of the herringbone weave, which comes from a different weaving culture. But to bring that in as a kind of signature means of wrapping the tube and terminating the weaving. And that's something that we wanted to express here, but then this whole assembly comes and we have to, this gets screwed on, and then this entire thing screws into the marble base. So that's why you have that on the bottom.
Do we have marble? That marble too? No marble.
No, I didn't bring the marble. It was too heavy.
Okay.
I didn't bring the marble. Any more questions for me? You guys have to. Okay.
Great.
Cool.
Thank
Did I get
you.
all the markers and pens back? Those are so expensive.
Count
those
them.
Japanese ones. Yeah, exactly. I should have counted them before I handed them out. That's the trick.
Okay.
I have no
I
idea
should've just said
what's missing. Yes.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
All right, you guys. Appreciate it. No problem.
paper.
So, if anybody has any questions or, wants any advice, or if you want to just talk about design in a different way, I'm available. Stephen at StephenBurksManmade.com. Okay? Cool.
When are you coming back from Milan?
I'm back on the 15th.
Okay.
Yeah. And